I'm going to feel really weird if like both me and you really like one and Jake's like, that tastes like shit.
I was mentally preparing for either be in that scenario or being the odd one out and having a fight for my taste preferences.
I am learning a lot more tasting with Rob, though.
Oh, yeah.
When you get to work with a master.
Yeah.
It helps.
Yeah, I'm sure. A podcast about bourbon and the ones who drink it. This is Bourbon Matters. All right, welcome to Bourbon Matters. I'm Jake.
I'm Dan.
And we're joined today by Jake Cigelnik,
Yes.
the other Jake. Point the mic toward you.
There we go. How about
There,
that?
that's
All right,
better.
Perfect.
Jake is the owner of Gold Eagle.
My family, my dad and my brother and I.
Yeah. Gold Eagle's a local liquor store in Libertyville. We've talked about them multiple times on the show. We go for a lot of the tasting events, blind tastings and the master classes with different distilleries. And Jake was kind enough to come tonight, and we've got some cool stuff that we're going to do. So
I appreciate you guys having me. It's going to be a fun night, I think.
yeah.
Yeah, we got a little surprise text the other day. We had a nice episode planned out, and then Jake's like, hey, would you guys like to do a Knob Creek barrel pick with me?
Yeah.
Samples came at the right time. So.
Yeah.
He really had to fight us on it, I think.
Yeah.
We weren't overly excited about just
Yeah.
tasting single barrels from Knob Creek, but at the end of the day, it's for content.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what it's for.
Do anything for the gram, right?
So, Jake, with barrel picks, you guys do a lot of them. I mean,
We
there's
do.
always a lot. I mean, and we've helped out with some or been there when you've done some before.
Right.
How many barrel picks a year do you guys do?
Last year was the first year that we officially counted, and it was 48, so just barely shy of 50 picks. But the one thing that kind of gets left out that I think is a very valuable piece of information is how many barrels we say no to or turn down. Because last year, I think the count was over 400 barrels that we said no to.
Wow.
A lot of times with picks, you get, 3 samples in front of you. You're told to pick one, but if you really don't love one of them, we like to say no a lot and ask for a new set of samples, which I think what sets us apart from a lot of other stores that do barrel picks. We're very picky. If we're putting our name on it, it's going to be something that we can stand behind. So
I think that definitely shows because you guys pick like the best. Like everything you guys have that I've tried that you guys have picked has been phenomenal. So
thank you.
the track record definitely speaks for itself.
And it shows, too, because they're not at the store very long.
Oh yeah.
I mean, we have certain picks that obviously don't sell as fast as others, but I do feel like I can still stand behind them, even if they aren't hyped up and even if they aren't flying out of the store. They're still very good barrels. They just might be a brand that's smaller, not as known. And we've recently found that a lot of times it's rye that doesn't sell as well. And I really believe that that's because people just haven't had the right rye, and they might be scared of rye, and they think it's overly spicy, and they're not as open to trying rye as they are bourbon.
Dan.
I will say, though, some of my favorite ryes have been barrel-proof ryes.
Yeah.
I think some of the ethanol cuts through for a little bit for me and gets rid of some of the rye spice that I'm not a huge fan on. But I've been slowly changing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've also been finding a lot of the more like floral ryes, and those are the ones that you seem to like actually enjoy.
Like flowers.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we will be doing a Knob Creek sampling, and you said you just got these in.
Just got them yesterday. Yeah, that's when I messaged you about
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
And so how does that relationship work with Knob Creek? Because I know you've done quite a few with them. Do you just say, hey, you're ready to do another single barrel pick, and they start sending?
It used to be that way. We could request samples whenever we want. Now Knob is kind of cutting back a little bit. They actually paused the single barrel program for about a year during COVID. I think that was more so to let things age and catch up. And we saw them come out with 15-year and 18-year releases. So I think a lot of their single barrels, you used to be able to find 15, 16-year Knob Creeks in the 9-year bottle. You don't see those anymore. Every time we get samples, it's always 9 years. But this would be our 10th barrel pick of Knob Creek, which is pretty exciting. And we do have a very good relationship with them. So, if I tell them, hey, we want a Knob Creek barrel, within a couple months, they'll get us a sample kit.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I think it's like Knob's not anything, they're a major player.
Yeah.
To do an understatement.
For sure.
Do you think I guess the best way to ask this, are more people doing barrel picks that haven't done in the past? Do you think that's part of the issue too? Is that the demand for barrel picks is higher?
Absolutely, yeah. It's very helpful when you get a whole barrel bourbon, you sell it out the same day, and I think a lot of other stores see that happening with stores like us, and there's plenty of other stores that do it as well. Yeah, I mean, it's a huge add to the business when you're doing that, and especially when you're picking good barrels and you can build a reputation and a name. But there's also an issue there with other stores that might not have as good of a palate. And I'm not going to name any names, but I've had reps come to me and hand me samples and say, this store over here said, we don't even care to taste, just pick one and send us a barrel, just because it'll have our name on it and we can, hopefully sell it faster than
and they can mark it up by like 10 or 15 bucks.
Yeah,
as
sometimes
like
you can mark it up a little bit more.
Especially if they actually bottle it at barrel proof or something for you,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, and the other impressive thing is, I know you guys had barrel picks sell out in a day or within a week without a problem. You guys are selling out of one store compared to some of the other places around here that have 30 or 40 locations in the suburbs.
Right.
And they split that up between all the stores, so they're getting a case or two, where you guys are getting about 40 cases per.
Yeah, it kind of depends. I'd say the average is like high 20s. 20, 6-packs, about 180 bottles is like the average for a barrel, depending on how old it is.
Nice. Mm-hmm. So in terms of the ones we'll be sampling, are they all, well, I guess I don't want to know too much, all in the same year area, or?
Yes. I have the answer key. We're not going to look at it till after because we'll do it blind so that we're not biased when we're picking these. But 2 of them were the same age, and one of them is about 8 months older, but they're all 9-year. One of them I noticed was from Warehouse 1, which is the Booker's warehouse, and that was our last barrel pick that we did from them that we got a lot of really good feedback on, but that doesn't mean that this barrel is going to be as good.
Yeah.
And I also noticed they were all on either the 5th or 6th floor, and Knob Creek has 9 or 10-story rick houses, so that's pretty tall for industry, and so all right in the middle. So you're getting a good combination of flavors. They don't rotate their barrels, so they should all be pretty balanced.
Yeah. Thanks.
And your last 2 barrel picks from Knob was a 9.5 year and a 10 year.
Correct.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
The 10 was phenomenal.
10 was really good.
I have the 9.5. I haven't opened it yet though.
They're both really good. We put them head to head in one of our last blind tastings, and I think it was like 2 votes off the 10-year one, but they were very close.
Yeah.
So with these, we'll work from left to right, I'm guessing?
Yeah, however way you want to do it, just don't mix up the order that your glasses are in.
Thank God Roberto's not here.
Yeah. There's a struggle every time we do a blind tasting.
When we do a blind tasting, we will be sitting there and we'll be talking, and Roberto's like, I don't smell or taste that. And we'll smell the other glass. Oh, no, I smell it. I think I rotated these around. Yeah. You had 2 and you misplaced 2 of them. All right.
All right, you want to start with the first one, then I'll ask you some questions in between sips?
Yeah, let's do it. And I would definitely recommend, I know you guys aren't amateurs, but taste a little from each glass and then go back the opposite direction.
Yep.
Because your palate will change after getting a little whiskey in the mouth.
The good thing is I've had about 6 or 7 different samples earlier today.
Nice. And actually, I also really like to nose them all first, and then go in and taste. So I think I'm gonna do that.
So I'll start with some questions. So your store has been around for a long time, right? I think 1933.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is incredible by any by any metric. So what's the history of your family and the Gold Eagle brand?
So my great-grandfather actually started the first store, and we don't have the official paperwork for this, but the story has always been that he got the third liquor license that Chicago issued after Prohibition, and the store opened the day after Prohibition ended. There's also stories that he had ties with Al Capone and the mob and whatnot. But again, I wish there was more documentation on this stuff. We don't even know why the store is called Gold Eagle. It just kind of happened. And growing up, I wasn't part of the business really at all, and I never really thought I would get a part of it. So I didn't get to ask my grandfather as many questions as I probably wished I would have. But it started in the city, corner of Clark and Van Buren. And over the years kind of moved our way out to the burbs, and 15 years ago we still had 3 or 4 stores. Libertyville was always the biggest one. It's always done the best, and it was just too much work for my dad and my grandfather to watch over all the stores, so they just decided, let's sell a couple off, and just make this store as best as we can.
Nice. So when did you actually start getting your hands in everything?
It's been just under 6 years.
Oh, wow.
5.5 years ago. I was actually living in California at the time, selling solar. And yeah, and just had a phone call with my dad one day, and he kind of mentioned that, he didn't really want to work too much longer, was thinking about eventually retiring. And then it sort of hit me like, hey, if I want to get involved and keep this family legacy going, like, now's the time, more than ever. And part of the reason why I went out to California, because I knew if I ever did get involved in the business, it would be impossible to leave. So got my experience while I could elsewhere.
So I'll skip my second question and come back to it. So since we're doing a barrel pick, what do you normally look for when you're gonna do a barrel pick? Is there anything?
Yeah, there definitely is. I like to, I mean, it's, I like to get kind of nerdy with all the different tasting notes and describe what I'm tasting. But at the end of the day, it's really about, do you like this pour or not? And when I'm doing a barrel pick, I kind of like to go through them at a pretty decent pace while the last sip is still on my palate. And I don't really know how to describe it, but I can just tell this is the barrel. And most of the time, the room is with you. And I'm not saying, my palate is best of the best. It's definitely not. But I do like to do it with other people and get other opinions and kind of talk through it, just to see where everyone else's head's at. Because depending on what I had for lunch, if I had another pour of whiskey before this, that could alter what I'm tasting. Yeah. So
at the end of the day, you're trying to sell it. So
yeah, right. I mean, you need to. It's not just my favorite whiskey. I need to make sure that it's a whiskey that everyone's gonna like, and also try to remember exactly what I'm tasting and experiencing, so that when we get the whiskey in the bottles, we can market it to the right customer. If it's a more mellow, smoother whiskey, lower proof, that's more for a beginner, and kind of can explain those tasting notes. And if it's barrel proof, intense, and just hits you hard, then it's more for your connoisseur. And so you need to know how to market it the right way in that sense.
So we talked a little bit about the process for like getting barrel picks. In the case of Knob, you said they kind of just send you something, right?
Yeah.
or ask you if you're ready for another one. Or
Right.
So have you ever turned down anything without sampling it?
No and yes. I mean, most of the time I'm gonna give it a fair chance and sample it. But the one scenario that I usually do turn down, especially as of lately, is younger MGP.
Okay.
Just because every distillery now can pretty much get their hands on MGP.
Yeah.
And we have a really good relationship with Jepson's distillery, and they have a lot of MGP barrels, and they're charging way below what most other distilleries are charging. So the way I look at that is, I don't, if you have a 6-year MGP and you're charging suggested retail of $70 a bottle, why am I going to taste your samples and pick one of those when I can go to Jepson's anytime, taste a 6-year, pick a 6-year, and their retail price right now is $40 a bottle. So that's the only case where I have said no, like we don't want the samples, just because I know it's the same whiskey, just in a different label, and the price doesn't make sense.
So you can be as vague as you want to with this one. So how do you guys handle distributors and like allocated product? So like we've talked to some other like liquor store owners, and it seems like there's a constant struggle trying to get the allocated product from the distributors, and they seem to want to always favor the Bennies or the Liquor Barn or whatever, like the big guys who buy 10, 20, 30, 50 times more product than a smaller store. So how do you kind of, or even do you fight for those like allocated bottles?
If it's something that's kind of new coming out, then yes, I'll ask my rep and kind of be on them about it. But if it's something like a Sazerac Buffalo Trace item, no, never ask, and I won't waste my time asking, because they do a pretty good job, those bigger companies, of automatically allocating it out, and no matter what you say or do is not really going to change where they distribute those products, so it's just not really worth worrying about. And we're also lucky that we are a pretty big store, so we do move a lot of volume of your everyday products. And I'm pretty sure the way the allocations are set is they'll cut a certain amount for your Jewels and your grocery stores. They'll cut a certain amount for, hate to say their name, but Bennies, and then the rest is for independents. And then I feel like, compared to other independents, we do get taken care of on a lot of the allocated stuff, because we do move a lot of regular shelf items for them. So
kind of a follow-up to that is, when you guys do get allocated product, you just post it on Instagram and it's first come, first serve. Which is not the norm in the industry, I would say. Most stores are trying to hide that for their special customers, or they're trying to mark it up to crazy prices. So what drives you guys to sell it, one, at retail, and two, in like a equitable way, I guess?
Non-biased way.
Well, there's kind of a few different ways how we decide where those products go. So, portion goes to the bar, and we believe, putting the bottles at the bar at a good price. That way people can actually try it and find it and see if they really like it. Most of it, yes, does get posted on social media, and I think the thought process there is we want to be as transparent as possible with people. When I first started working there, this is 5 or 6 years ago, we had 2 floor managers that had been there for 30 years, and it was, I can't even tell you how many people, what's in the back room, what's in the back room, what's in the back room, and it was just annoying. You wanted to beat your head against the wall. Like,
well, you have the chalkboard with
the
Pappy
tally. I wish we stopped putting tallies on there like 3 years ago.
He ran out of space.
But I mean, it really should be like a Blanton's tally or a Weller tally now, because nobody really asks for Pappy anymore. They know it's,
you're not gonna get it.
You're not gonna find it. But it was just like, when I came to the store, this was before I knew really about bourbon or whiskey or anything. I was a, cheap beer, Lagunitas IPA drinker, whatever handle was on sale for spirits. So I've definitely changed a lot in the last 6 years with my drinking habits. But it was definitely mind blowing to see how many people would come in the store and not even take a look at the shelf, just ask what's on the back. And at that point, you could have something like a E.H. Taylor on the shelf, and there's certain people that won't want it just because it's on the shelf, and they just want something that's in the back just to feel special that they got something special.
Right.
So that was that kind of made me think, like, put myself in a customer standpoint. One, I don't want to wait in line. Two, I don't want to have to, beg someone or, ask someone to grab me something out of the back. I just would want a store to be transparent. So that's what we try to do. And then obviously posting that stuff does get more followers. And the more followers we have is pretty much just more free marketing for us. We can post and hit a lot more people at one time. So,
yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of transparency from companies on, like anything. We talk a lot on the show about distilleries that are transparent with their mash bills or their blends. I think it's like fantastic trend in the industry. And it's like, I think it's in this day and age, I don't think it's particularly beneficial to hide your mash bill and keep it a secret.
right.
I think anybody that has like done tasting or like drinks whiskey regularly knows that you're never going to be able to produce the same thing twice, regardless of what your secret recipe is or where you put it, in a warehouse or whatever.
Everything.
Yeast
So-
adds a huge difference.
Yeah.
I mean, most people aren't going to care about yeast, what's in the...
Right.
Most novice, or most... Well, your high-end bourbon drinkers are probably going to know some of your yeast varieties.
Yeah, I think we're getting to a point, too, in the industry where distilleries are realizing that the customers want transparency.
Yeah.
So, we're starting to see a lot more transparency from all these different distilleries, and you have to, because there's so many distilleries out there.
Yeah.
You have to do what the customer wants.
And it's like a distinguishing factor too,
Right.
because there's so many of the legacy distilleries that like, it's like the closely guarded family secret that's like stashed in a safe within a safe within a safe that, two people in the entire company know the mash bill and like, where if you come out and say like, no, here it is, it's interesting, especially for avid, drinkers, because you can start to actually understand like where the flavors are being driven from the different components in the mash bill, which is cool.
Yeah, and to Dan's point, like, you can't recreate it. You can use the same grain, you can use the same, recipe, mash bill, same barrel, same char. But if you're not putting that barrel in the exact location, and even if you are putting that barrel in the exact location, you're still probably going to get a different end result at the end of the aging.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, if it was that easy, if it was just a recipe, it's not like cooking where it's a recipe and these ingredients of this type.
Right.
If it was that easy, everyone would have a Pappy killer.
yeah.
Like,
right.
No, Pappy wouldn't have a name because everyone would have something just as good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I'm already starting to get some favorites out of this.
Are you?
Yeah. I haven't tried the third one yet, so I guess I can't say for sure, but I definitely know.
I've got my noses nailed in which ones I like the best.
Yeah.
It's interesting that all three on the nose are completely different on the nose.
They are very different.
Yeah.
They are different on the palate as well. But they're all very good. There's usually with a barrel pick like this, there's one that you can just rule out and then end up re-blinding the other two. But I found that these are all good barrels. I'd be happy with any of them.
There's one that's a little bit less.
There is
favorable.
one, yeah, for me that's a little bit less.
Well, this is gonna be interesting. See, we're all gonna have a less favorable one. It's all gonna be a different one.
Everyone on the count of 3.
I'm behind. I've only tried one.
Yeah.
I've kind of taken a little nip at each one, but what I need to do is go back and focus more on the finish on this round. But we can discuss if you guys want to discuss what we're thinking. I never think that that's a bad idea.
Yeah,
Because you might be picking up one note that you really don't like, and then once you say it, I might taste it and be like, yeah, I get that too. I don't like that. So I do think it's good to have like an open discussion during a barrel pick once everyone has a chance to form their own opinions.
Yeah, it's always fun too to see the blind. Like that's been one of the most fun things we do is the blind tastings at your store. Mm-hmm. And especially when it was like one of my favorite things with like because you always throw a unicorn in there too. Like you'll always throw in something that's really hard to find or something that everyone wants or thinks they want, and then you'll just blindly throw it in there against something else.
Yeah.
And
what killed me was I think it was the first blind tasting that we went to. You had a Eagle Rare up against something else.
Russell 10-year.
Well, yeah, the Russell 10-year. And I would have bet any amount of money that the Eagle Rare was a rye.
You were hardcore on that too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And when you said it was Eagle Rare, I was like, I don't know how I didn't know.
Yeah, I mean, blind tastings are the way to go. You have to taste blind.
It's definitely an equalizer.
Yeah, it is. It's very, very easy to get influenced on what you're tasting if you know what it is. If someone pulls out that unicorn bottle, you're going to be so excited to taste it. Your mind is already made up that you like that pour. And it's been very eye-opening for myself too. I'll be honest, E.H. Taylor was a bourbon that I thought was very good and worth all the hype. And I'm not really into many of those hyped up bottles, maybe just because I get asked for it so much and bang my head against the wall. Yeah. But E.H. Taylor was the one where I was like, this is actually pretty good. I like it. But doing it blind, it lost pretty easily to Wild Turkey 101 and Old Grandad Bonded in our blind tastings. And I knew what they were, but tasting them side by side, I do believe the Wild Turkey 101 was better and the Old Grandad was better. I thought the Wild Turkey was very similar. They tasted almost identical.
Huh.
But
we've been every once in a while at the place I'm working part-time at a distillery, we'll do a fun game where people will bring in a bunch of bottles and we'll just start off with a bunch of blind pours and it's find the rye based off of nose. And when you're tasting a rye, you think it's easy to tell a rye. When you have one mixed among 6, it's not nearly as easy as you would think.
Right.
Just by nose in the glass to find a rye.
Yeah. And especially because every bottle of rye can be so different.
Yeah.
Especially rye, because you have your floral ryes, you have your minty ryes, you have your spicy ryes. So there's a lot of variation when it comes to rye.
Yeah.
You finished your first?
Yeah, I'm going to run back through real quick.
Oh, geez. I think in terms of nose, one is, for me, is extremely smooth and pleasant on the nose.
A is my favorite nose.
Really?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm off on that one then. I get a little corn funk out of it.
But nose, it doesn't always mean it's the best barrel, obviously. Yeah. And I've had, the best nose ends up being the worst barrel plenty of times, and vice versa. And I think it really comes down to palate and finish more than nose. You want it to line up, but at the end of the day, palate and finish is more, definitely weighs more than the nose.
What about you, Jake? Any noses sticking out to you?
I like B.
That's what my favorite nose was. But B's also like the most mild out of all of them.
Yeah, I would say so.
Why did you guys like the nose on B?
I had a lot of vanilla on B.
Yeah, there's like some kind of funk in the other two. This one doesn't have it.
So this is why it's good to discuss.
Right.
Because going back and nosing them all again, I get a little bit of ethanol on A that I didn't really get the first time. I still think there's a little more going on the nose on
There
A.
definitely
That's
is.
probably why I liked
Yeah.
it. But I do get a little bit of ethanol notes that come through, and that's probably what was off-putting to you guys.
For me, B, it's not like anything stands out about it. It's just very mellow vanilla scent. That's all I'm really getting out of it. Like, you don't get hardly any ethanol
No, you
at
don't.
all. None of the esters out of it.
I'm a bad person to talk to about the nose because my allergies are so bad. I usually can't pick
I was
anything.
gonna say I'm coming off of a little cold, so mine might be a little thrown off, but I think
I'm going to go in a different order, too, when I go back through. Just so I'm not
that's
drinking the
always
same
good.
ones. This is interesting. This is difficult.
these are difficult. And you guys were at our master class when we picked the Whiskey Acres barrel, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think that was, there was one barrel that completely dominated
Yeah.
the other barrels, and we'll go into that more on the
I don't
next
think
episode,
I picked
but-
it any of the times.
It was my
was
second favorite from the start.
It was like 24 votes to 3, so you must have been one of the 3.
Yeah.
Which the guy from Whiskey Acres, Nick, was also one of the 3.
Really?
So, that doesn't.
Yeah, I don't remember specifically about like that sample. There was something that I really like, a certain note that I really liked in that one that the other one didn't have. Like we went back and tried the pick, and I was like, you can't be mad about it 'cause it was really good, you know.
Yeah.
But like, it is way different though when you're trying things back to back and trying to compare 3 like outstanding,
Right.
samples. You know, it is tough.
Yeah.
Sorry. I'm the nerd, so I got to type my notes so I don't forget.
I know that number 2 is my least favorite palette.
Why?
It's the least complex out of the 3, in my opinion. Like the number 1 and number 3 have like, I personally like deeper, darker kind of notes, like the tobacco and like leather.
You like
the
a higher
char.
tannin level.
Yeah, those 2 seem to have that, and the middle does not.
Yeah, number 2, I get a lot of the ethanol up front, and then it kind of just goes away, and you get a lot of the vanilla and the chewiness on the Knob Creek and the oak coming in on the back, but it's a very, very mellowed out finish.
Yeah,
Just like
there's
a
not-
spike up front, and then you're just calm and
It
mellow.
goes quick.
Yeah.
It
Kind of dissipates a little bit, which would be more, and I'm not ruling it out completely, but would be more of like a beginner's.
Yeah. It's a very just smooth, nothing just stands out about it. It's just a
Yeah.
very smooth, easy drinking. That's
yeah.
there's
Like
which,
that's what
there's
I
nothing
would-
wrong with that. But if you're doing a barrel pick, you usually probably want something that stands out a little bit
Right.
more than
right,
than
like
that.
that's what I would expect a normal off the shelf Knob Creek 9 to taste like.
Yeah.
Where like number 3 and number 1 have what I would normally attribute to like much older whiskeys.
Number 1 is chewy, and that's if I had to pick 5 bourbons to drink for the rest of my life, one of them would definitely be Knob Creek Booker's, that flavor profile, because I love how chewy the oak is, and you get a lot of sweetness, but also like the oak just lingers and it hits the side of your mouth and just dances there for a couple minutes after you taste it. And that's what I get in 1. So if you can't tell, 1 is probably my favorite. But
I get almost on 1. Not that it's a bad thing, and I don't know the better way to describe it either. Is I get it with Penelope too. It's almost like a little solvent flavor
Solvent.
in it on the palate. Not on the nose, but on the palate, I get just a little bit. But then it makes me think of Penelope,
Like a chemically kind of
kind of.
thing.
But I've also did a lot of cleaning today, so it just could be. Yeah, I think 2 is a good whiskey, a good bourbon, but I don't think it's. If I was going to do a barrel pick, I'd want something that stands out more than that.
Yeah.
I really like 2 as a drink. That 2 would be Roberto's Netflix on a Tuesday night whiskey.
The anytime whiskey.
Yeah. But again, there's nothing special about it that
I know what you're saying about number 1 and like the chewy
Yeah.
type of thing. Yeah.
I just went back and tasted 3, and like 3 hits right down the center of my palate. And I get a lot more spice, and I really like it, but it's very different than 1. 1 is all on the side, and you get a lot of that chewy oak, but 3 is like a lot of spice.
Yeah, there's a lot more that like
And 3 lingers.
for a long time. Yeah.
A very long time.
1 has a lot of like wood notes. Like not necessarily just the like charred oak, but like wood in general.
Right.
And it does feel like more syrupy in like its consistency than the other 2.
Viscosity.
What's funny is just as you said syrupy, I was smelling it, and I was going to say I'm getting more syrup on 3.
Oh,
Well, 3 is. I'm still. It's been about a minute since I've sipped 3, and it's still going. And now I'm kind of getting the flavor spreading to the back sides of my palate. It's a journey.
yeah.
Like it's a journey.
It definitely carries for like a solid minute after like you're done sipping.
And that's for sure something that I'm looking for when doing a barrel pick.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And especially right now it's still 70 degrees out and it's mid-November, but Saturday when it's 30 degrees again,
Yeah.
I want that to sit there and linger for a minute so I stay warm.
Right. Mm-hmm. And I think we're at 2 minutes now since my last sip, and I'm still tasting it, and the mid palate's gone away, but it's still hanging out on the back sides.
I'm a minute into mine and it's still mid-palate.
Mm-hmm. And it changes. That's why I said it's a journey, and I think that's something special to look for. Let's go back to B because that's the only thing I have left in my glass.
I'm basically down to that. That was gonna be my palate cleanser. Was the last one just because it's
very, very peanutty on the nose. B. Pull out the cheat sheet here.
B doesn't have much of a finish.
no. There's not. I mean, it's a very quick. It hits hard and then it's gone.
I don't get much in the back either.
It's like
it's
a little
all kind of
It's like a
in the
little
front.
jab. It hits you right up front, and then there's nothing. It doesn't sit there and hurt anymore.
Yeah.
It's just,
B is the one that I wanted us to pick.
that was the
Booker's warehouse one. But it's good that we didn't know that going into this because it's definitely lacking compared to the other 2.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, it's like what you'd expect.
Yeah.
Type of thing.
beginner whiskey.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I think you definitely got to be careful when you get something that comes out of that Booker's warehouse because why aren't they using it for Booker's?
Right.
Oh,
That's a good point.
Mm-hmm. Which is not always the case. We saw our last 10-year one was really good.
Yeah.
But
I don't think there's anything wrong with B.
no, there's definitely nothing wrong with it. And if I got a bottle, I wouldn't be upset.
Yeah.
But compared to these other 2, there's just not as much going on.
No. There's just a little bit left of 3, and I think I can lick it out of the glass.
Well, good news is I think we're leaning towards picking that one. And if we do, there'll be plenty of bottles to go around.
If I was picking out of these 3, I think that would be 3 would be my pick on these. I just love the finish of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, one doesn't have has a better finish than 2, but it's also very short.
Yeah. And it's more of that chewy oak on the side palate.
Yeah,
And I think
which like the wood, is like it comes through, but it doesn't stay very long.
yeah. And 2, now that I went back and tried it, it has the spice that 3 has, but it has nowhere near the depth. And like we said, that journey that 3 takes you on, being able to taste it for a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes after just a little tiny sip.
Yeah.
God, now that my 3 is empty and I'm just smelling an empty glass, I've been getting more char off of the.
Yeah. And yeah, 2's just gone for me. After a minute of tasting, there's nothing left. I'm not tasting anything. So yeah, I think I don't know. What do you guys think? I think we might have our winner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think 3 is
3.
Well, that was simple. There's no fighting or anything.
No.
Yeah.
Mm-mm. That's why it's good to talk it out.
Yeah.
I was scared at first.
See, you were scared. I have no problem being wrong and admitting it.
Well,
That's the difference.
and the other thing too is when you're doing a barrel pick, you can't be wrong. There's no wrong
Right,
answer.
yeah.
Even if you are a beginner to whiskey, it's whatever you like. Obviously this is a little different because we're picking for a store and for the masses, but we still want the best barrel. And I think after talking through it, we all agreed that 3 was the best barrel. So pretty excited for this one.
Yeah.
I agree with almost everything there, but except for when you said that you can't be wrong. Because
can't
if you did a mellow corn barrel pick, I would say you're wrong.
You guys love mellow corn.
No,
I noticed that in the
Roberto
last
Roberto
couple
loves mellow corn.
episodes. Well, he's not here to defend himself.
I know.
Yeah.
That's why I'm going to throw that out there. Don't ever do a mellow. If it has a twist off cap, don't do a barrel pick of it.
What if it was $20 retail?
Well, the
price?
Jepson's has a twist off.
Well, the Jepson's has, I guess Weller Special Reserve and 12-year twist off caps.
yeah.
Don't hate the twist off.
If it's bright yellow, you can hate it.
You're never gonna run into an issue with a twist off bottle. With a cork bottle, the cork might crumble and you might run into an issue.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
Nice.
So don't hate Dan.
I still will. Roberto can't fend off mellow corn, so we're just going to talk shit about it. All right, well, want to wrap up the barrel pick episode here?
Yeah, so do you want to read off the card for this one?
Sure. Yeah. So let's see. You see here. Floor 6, Rick number 2, which means the second row inside. So it was near a window, which is always very interesting because it gets the intense heat in the summertime. Some sunlight probably hits it, warms it up even more. And then in the wintertime, it gets the extreme cold because all their windows are open.
Yeah, and that kind of tracks for me.
Yeah.
Because you get a lot of really deep flavors in that one.
Right. Tier 1, and it was barreled on October 3rd, 2013. So it is just barely a 9-year.
Okay, yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
And then the process at this point, so then after you decide what you want, you let Knob Creek know. It probably takes a few weeks for them to get that barrel into production for bottling.
Yeah, I'll let them know we want this one. And they usually, like most distilleries, want an answer ASAP.
Yeah.
Which is kind of annoying, but I mean, it makes sense because they have a lot of samples going out. And it's more annoying when a distillery sends one sample out to multiple places.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So at least here, they want an answer because they want to reuse that sample somewhere if you say no to it. But yeah, so I'll get them the answer tonight probably after we're done. They'll submit it and probably bottle within the next month, ship it to us. I'm guessing early January, but you never know,
Right.
especially these days.
Yeah.
Could be a month. It could also be 9 months. But I'm guessing probably January, February.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Well, I mean, if they're gonna wait 9 months, they might as well let it keep aging.
Yeah, I mean, that's always nice too. And I've told distilleries that, but they don't care. It's whenever their production schedule can fit in bottling it, they'll get it bottled. So,
Now, does this go straight to you, or does it have to go through distribution?
it has to go through distributor. So, but as soon as like the day the distributor gets it, they want it out of their warehouse. So
Yeah.
they're
Right.
going to be telling us to take it. And a barrel like this, 9-year, suggested retail price right now is $65. So as long as that doesn't change, I think that's a really good price for a 9-year, 120 proof single barrel.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's something that we want right away as soon as it hits the distributor and get it out to our customers.
Yeah. This will be a perfect midwinter whiskey.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So yeah, that'll hit right at the right
It'll warm
time
you
if
up.
if we get it in January.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, Jake, we talked about it earlier with when you guys get the good stuff in, you normally throw it right up on social. Where can people find you on social?
So Instagram, Gold Eagle Wine. Actually, I should. Gold Eagle Wine. I was gonna say I should double check that, but I think
I'm
I
pretty
know
sure
that.
you're right too. I looked at it up too.
Because the
before.
Facebook's different. The Facebook's like Gold Eagle something else, Gold Eagle Spirits or something. But if you search Gold Eagle Wine and Spirits, either platform, you'll find it. As soon as we get this barrel in, we'll post it up. I'll probably post this podcast episode too, because this was pretty cool. Just so everyone can see the process going through the pick. And yeah, we have an online store as well. We have an app that you can download on the App Store.
Yeah,
Google
which is
Play or
fantastic. I use it
Apple.
all the
Yeah.
time.
So as soon as it goes up for sale, it'll be available online and also in the store, and first come, first serve. So, yeah.
Nice.
All right. Well, Roberto's not here. So
Yeah,
I guess
Roberto's
I'll-
not here, so I'll cover.
Yeah, go ahead.
You can watch us on YouTube. You can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon, most every place that you can listen to us. We're there. Make sure you like, rate, subscribe, leave a comment, review, all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
That's it, right?
Well, yeah. Instagram, YouTube. I think that's
Instagram. Yeah, follow us on Instagram at Bourbon Matters. Send us an email, bourbonmatters@gmail.com. Go to our website, bourbonmatterspodcast.com. All the episodes are on the website.
They will be tomorrow or Saturday. I'm sorry, I've been gone 6 days.
Just
a
go to
week.
YouTube.
Just go to YouTube.
Don't be lazy.
Yeah, go to YouTube.
But who goes to websites now?
I don't know. The only reason they can go there is to the donate button, and that button's always up.
Yeah. I think we've still made $1 off the donate button. Right?
And that was me testing it out. We're good.
All right. So next week, we're going to be with Jake again because we're going to record this the same night. But we're going to talk about Whiskey Acres, and we're going to try the barrel pick that we did at Gold Eagle, and maybe a couple other fun surprises. So
Cool.
yeah.
Good.
All right. See you guys next week.
See ya.
Thanks, guys.
We got a cheers.
Oh. Oh,
Cheers.
Right glass. That didn't work.
That was terrible.
Cheers.
Oh, we just do a one cheers, Jake. Sorry. That was Roberto and me. I just clinked.